Hello everybody. In the construction of my high voltage differential probe, good for up to 20 kilovolts, I am at the point now where I can start to fill up oil inside the probe for high voltage insulation. But before I do that, let me show you the inside. This is actually just one half. This is the top leg of the voltage divider. You can see I've got high voltage going in here on this insulator, coming down here, and we got a bunch, 6 resistors in series, and each resistor is in parallel with a 100 picofarad capacitor to handle the high frequency, and then the output is just a BNC connector. And that all goes into a jar, just an ordinary canning jar that you would make jelly, you make apple jelly in at home. But the BNC connection gets hooked up to a very short length of wire, and right now the box is empty, but this is going to be the compensation box with the bottom leg of the voltage divider circuit, and which will be a resistor and capacitor compensation. And then of course here's the Tektronix P5200 differential probe. So I'm going to have 2 of these. This is one, and that's the other one right there. One more thing about this is, I should point it out, is that I attached all these things on top simply by soldering them. You can see I drilled a hole and very carefully soldered all these pieces on top. There was already a metal ring on the bottom of the insulator, so I just soldered the metal ring to the steel. I had to scrape off the lacquer that's on top of the lid to expose the steel, but solder sticks fairly well to steel, just as it does to copper. And the only thing that's not soldered on here is the BNC connector. All I did was I just attached that with a little rubber washer there to maintain a good seal for when I'm pulling the vacuum. Okay, so behind this board is my vacuum pump, and I'm going to turn it on now and close the relief valve. And there you can see my vacuum gauge starting to go up. But basically it's pulling a vacuum inside here, and inside here. This is just a reservoir that I made to transfer the oil from the glass jar to up here and then back down into here. That's just because I only have one opening here on the lid. If I had 2 openings, one for pulling a vacuum and one for inserting the oil, then I wouldn't need this. Okay, I've had the pump going for a while now, and I'm going to leave it on for the moment while I release the paper clip here and let the oil get sucked up. Into the reservoir, and I can leave a little more in there. And I want to stop it before it gets up to the top hose, which goes back to the vacuum pump. Now I'm going to release the pressure, and the air pressure is now coming in this way and pushing all this oil down into the high voltage probe. I'm closing it now, and I'm just going to let it go for a little bit because it's going to start boiling. Oh, there's a whole bunch of little nucleation sites on the perf board, just like it's going to start fizzing, just like in a can of soda. And I really don't know if that's the oil itself boiling because it's got no pressure pushing down upon it, or if it's actually dissolved air or other gases that's trapped inside the oil. So I'm just going to let this go for a while, and I'll repeat the process to fill up the little bit of air that's on top. Okay, it's been about 15 minutes. It's still fizzing in there a little bit, but I'm going to turn the vacuum pump back on, and we'll do that series of steps one more time. All right, going to let some oil into the reservoir. Don't need too much this time. You can see it's bubbling there a little bit because the vacuum is still pulling some air pressure from inside the high voltage probe jar down here. Open the valve. All right, then it's pretty much filled up now. You can see this oil level stopped dropping, so I'm going to close it. And of course, as expected, there's still a little bit of air on top. It's not going to be completely filled with oil. As a matter of fact, I guarantee there's going to be this whole thing is going to be filled with air, and I'm going to have to, at some point, I'm going to have to flip it over to let the air bubble float to the top, and then, of course, when it's tilted, the air will go to here, and then I can suck out the air from there, and then hopefully then it'll be 99.9% filled with oil. Okay, so while that vacuum is working over there, I'm going to work on something else. I'm going to make a seal to close up the copper opening in the lid, so oil doesn't spill all over the place when I'm in the process of using this. I can't really solder this thing, can't really solder it shut because it's going to be an oily mess. So I'm going to have to put some kind of a lid on top of it, and I'm going to do that just by heating up the end of a PVC tube so it melts and gets closed together on itself. I've just got it crimped here in between two slabs of aluminum, and those are inside these felt vice grip holders here, and I just have that for thermal insulation so I don't end up heating up the whole vise. I just want to heat up the two aluminum bars with the heat gun. I was doing this before. I just had the hose crimped in a binder clip, but that didn't work out too well. It did work a little bit, but I wasn't really satisfied with the very small seal. I want a much larger seal on the end here. All right, I'm going to let that cool down, and then we'll see what we got. Should be cooled down now. Ow! Crap! No. Well, the aluminum was still very hot, but the tube itself is very well sealed. Very nice seal. This is what I had before. Just sealed on the very end of it. Not much seal there at all. I wouldn't trust it. It might open at any time, but you can see the difference. I've got a much better seal here. Okay, back now to the oil. You can see it's still bubbling a little bit in there, but it's kind of died down. So I'm going to flip this over, and there you can see all that extra air that's in there. Of course, that's air at very low pressure. So even though it looks like a lot, once I release the vacuum, we should see it start to shrink. Alright, so what I'm going to do is just put a ruler underneath here so the jar is on a little bit of a slant and the air pocket will stay up here right below the opening of the hose. Close the valve and turn the vacuum back on. And there it's sucking up the last little bit of air. Alright, one more time, I'm going to release the pressure and watch the oil go back down. And of course the air pocket itself will shrink too. Now let's see what we got. Oh, little bubble in there. That's not too bad. Just as long as all the high voltage components on the bottom are fully immersed. I would say it looks pretty good. So I'm just going to pull this hose off and probably use a syringe to inject a little more oil in there to fill up that last little air bubble, and then put the cap on it, and I'm done. At least done with this one. Then I got to start working on the other one as well. So I hope that was very informative. Thanks for watching.